New Mexico will celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day on Monday, October 14th. And now on to our final topic with the Line Opinion panel. Think New Mexico, the Santa Fe-based think tank, has a plan to pull our state out of its ranking as third in the nation for senior citizens living in poverty. It released a report proposing several legislative actions that could help New Mexico retirees and thereby all New Mexicans when you really think about it, Andy. This is an effort that, in its infancy at least, is in some cohesive form. Fred Nathan's Think New Mexico group is advancing, but these ideas, pension reform, Social Security, state-sponsored retirement accounts, these have all been around for a while, but they've never passed. Is it different now that I'm going to parse all these out in a second. You feel like it has a better chance if we kind of lump all these together with this idea?
I don't know. It's really, really hard to say. I think Fred Nathan is a very respected person in the legislature, and I think his research and studies that they do are taken seriously. I did notice that a lot of the lawmakers they spoke to said we kind of want to look at it first.
A lot of quotes that way.
Yeah. So,
but there weren't many no's or any no's that I read. You know what I mean?
There is I think a problem sometimes when you lump a lot of stuff together in these omnibus type bills. It's more opportunities for what they call the poison pill, right? Where remember that the governor can't line item veto bills anymore, except unless it's a budget thing. So if there's just one thing in there that she doesn't like, the whole thing could go away.
Let's talk about one thing that's interesting on this proposal, and that is removing the tax on Social Security benefits. Very interesting. That's been around for a while. A very simple premise here, keeping more money in the pockets of people who earned it over the years, basically. Your thought on that and its possibilities in the Senate, in our legislature?
Well,
What's the movement?
As someone who saw her mother, live on Social Security and not have very much, I know a lot of old people who would appreciate that.
That's right.
And you've already paid taxes on it once.
That's right.
And I think, the beauty of oil and gas producing so much money right now is we have the opportunity to forego some money. And I think they were thinking it's about $75 million or so if they don't tax retirees. So you do that, you don't have that money coming in, but you're not hurting, at least at this point.
Right.
And by the time you would be hurting, maybe retirees will be moving here because it's a cheaper place to live.
That's right.
So this is a way to market New Mexico as a great place to come in your golden years.
That's right. It's interesting, isn't it? When you think about, money's tight for a lot of our seniors. It's very interesting. And so one of the other ideas under the proposal is private businesses offering retirement accounts or private entities offering retirement accounts because, frankly, by Fred's numbers, 3/4 of us work in entities that don't have access to work-related retirement accounts.
And I will say that that's one of the sort of shocking numbers in this report that I thought was really. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised, right? But so many people in New Mexico, Social Security is going to be the only thing, right? Or close to the only thing. And so the idea that you could, it's sort of a quasi-free market solution because it would to a certain extent have government interaction or government management.
Sure.
But I think that idea that you could invest in pensions, that it would be taken automatically out of your payroll, that's something that employers could participate in, and it would give them some small tax advantage, or regulatory advantage. So I think that's really interesting. One of the things that, though, as well, I talked about sort of shocking figures. Not too long ago, I think it was John Oliver was talking about the aging Chinese population. We've heard about the aging Japanese population. Hearing that roughly 20% of New Mexicans are in that senior citizen range, and comparing that to the numbers that John Oliver talked about recently was just like, wow, we're getting old. Not just personally.
That's right. But is Fred Nathan on to something here? I mean, people are talking about this tsunami here, the aging boom tsunami here from the States for a while.
So we look at the aging population, as Inez just said, as a market opportunity, right? We want seniors to move here and spend their money here. But it also means that as this population gets older, as a proportion of the workforce, we're going to have fewer people putting money into the pensions. And so the fact that our state pension system is so woefully underfunded at this point.
That's right.
This proposal also would put about $700 million into
Pick up on that if you want. I'm so glad Sophie brought that up. The idea, this seems like it could be sticky in the legislature. This bit right here, taking $700 million out of those things to shore up these Public Employees Retirement Association, their education, just all that stuff. We are deep in red on this. what are the chances the legislature is going to see this as a fix?
Well, I mean, the legislature has to fix that pension stuff at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point.
It's the at some point part.
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
at some point
problem.
part.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, you start talking about $1 billion, and Fred does this all the time. Fred comes in with these grandiose, big ideas, and at the end of the day, he's really good at taking credit for, you know, this big idea becomes this one bill, and they get something done. And he does good. He does a lot of good things. I would argue that, you know, you got to be careful to play devil's advocate. You know, we keep talking about all of the retirees. There's a lot of people that aren't that excited about the retirees moving here. It's hard to get bond issues passed to fix schools. It's hard to get things done to fix roads because they come in and they say, listen, we've done all of our stuff.
Set. That's right.
They're not real big on spending a lot of money. You know, I mean, there's just a lot
We
of
already
things.
have a doctor and nurse.
And
We already have a
vote.
doctor,
Yeah.
right?
And
And
they
they vote.
vote.
And to the one extent that I think we as Republicans see is a lot of them tend to be conservative Republicans more than liberal Democrats, and they'll stand in line. And so, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, everybody keeps seeing all these. I think where you're going to see a lot of the rural legislators are going to give some pushback on this is that's where the problem is, right? Like I know I grew up in a little town of Cloudcroft, and you know it takes 9 people to elect someone to the school board. It takes 12 to elect them to city council. You get 7 retirees that move in and they're angry. They're now in charge of everything. And a lot of these smaller rural towns are like, yeah, we're not real keen on this. And so, you know, I think when the state says we're going to go out and do all these legislative actions to attract retirees, I think there's a lot of rural parts in New Mexico that are like, we're good with the retirees we got. We don't need people moving in from out of state that want to just come in here to retire. So I think you're going to run into that kind of behind the scenes fighting where there's certain places that are for them, certain places that want to attract retirees, but there's a lot of places in the state. I think if you start talking to the local folks, not real excited.
That's actually fascinating. That's interesting. Andy, last point here. Fred Nathan's also proposing, as part of these retirement boards, better qualifications for those who sit on the oversight of these boards. That's interesting for
It's like a
him to be
theme
making.
today.
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, that's been out there for a while, too.
We want
Is this
better
enough to-
qualifications, but we keep talking every week about losing our best and brightest kids from the state. So
That's right.
Where are we going to get these qualified people?
That's right. It's a tough one, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this is still early
Yep.
in the stages, and I would not be surprised if in 30 days, 60 days, a lot of this stuff gets moved around. I'm not saying that Fred Nathan's going to
Individual
change
bills, right.
change his stance on stuff, but
Yeah.
as people start reading into this, they're going to bring up other concerns and say there's also same with PRC that we talked about earlier.
That's
is
right.
what are the qualifications?
That's right.
Where do
That's
you
right.
where do you say and if it's supposed to be representative of the people? How do you say no? You're not qualified.
This big bill will come out of
That's
this
right.
session
That's
as a
right.
memorial, is when it'll come out. And then they'll do an investigation and go into the 60-day.
Right. Interesting point there. We're out of time for the topic and for the week. We're always chatting about something on social media, certainly me. Find us on Facebook by searching New Mexico in Focus. Thank you all for coming in this week. Good stuff.